Hey nerdy knitters, in this video we're looking at absolute beginner knitting projects. I have 10 ideas for you today. 7 of them are perfect for brand new knitters, focusing on just the basics, knitting and purling, casting on, binding off, a few really basic increases and decreases, and then 3 more patterns that will stretch you just a little bit if you're a brand new knitter, with some knits and purl combinations and a bit of color work with one of the patterns. But before we dive into those, I have 3 tips to share if you're a new knitter and you want to get started right away. Start with medium or bulky yarn and large needles because it's easier to see what you're doing and see your stitches, and you'll know exactly what's happening while you work. And also start with flat projects, things that are worked back and forth in rows. It's easy to keep track of your stitch count that way. And start with small projects. Small projects, bulky yarn, you'll be finished really fast and you'll be proud of your effort because you'll have a project that you've just completed. So let's look at the projects. The very first one isn't really a pattern at all. Coasters. When I first started to knit, these are a few of the coasters I made. You don't really need a pattern for them. All you need to know is coasters can be about 4 inches or so. So when you grab your yarn, let me see, I'll grab a ball right here. Look for like a worsted weight yarn. You can look for this symbol right there on your yarn. And most yarn balls will tell you, this one says 20 stitches and 4 inches. So if I were going to make a coaster, I would cast on 20 stitches. And coasters are perfect for new stitch patterns, anything you might want to practice. You just cast on a little bitty square and then you just knit until it's square and then you bind it off. That's all there is to it. You really don't need a pattern. Just look for that yarn, one that has a number 4 or a number 5, a nice bulky yarn. The second project on my list is a cup cozy. The pattern I have is just a simple little rectangular band. You start here and you knit, and then you finish off with some buttonholes, and you add your buttons, and then you can slide it on your water bottle or your mug. They're very stretchy because it's worked in garter stitch. If you're new to knitting, garter stitch means you knit every single row and you get this really stretchy fabric. Now I have a full tutorial on how to make this. It's absolutely perfect for new knitters. It teaches everything you need to know to make this. The third project on my list is the garter stitch scarf and sideways hand warmers patterns from Church Mouse Yarns and Tees. You'll find the link for this down below. You're just working a long knit, every row rectangle garter scarf, and they also have some mitts, the smaller things that you knit, and then they'll show you how to seam them. So this is a great project because all it is knitting every row, and you'll learn how to cast on and bind off, and then also to seam your finished mitts. So it's perfect for new knitters. The next project on the list is a series of dishcloths. I've already produced 3 videos that go over 3 different patterns that will show you all of the basics of knitting. When you finish all these dishcloths, you'll know how to work garter stitch like this one, knitting every row. And the second one introduces the purl stitch, and it shows you how to count your rows and your stitches, something that's really important for new knitters to know how to do. I don't know how many times I've been in groups and people post pictures of their projects asking how many rows they've worked. It's important to learn how to do that, and this video will show you how to do that. And the final video in the series is a classic, very common pattern, grandma's favorite dishcloth, heirloom dishcloth. It has a lot of names, but it starts on one end and you increase to the full width and then you decrease again. So you're learning how to yarn over and knit 2 together with this pattern. So all of those patterns will teach you all of the basics, full video tutorials for that. You'll find the link for that down below. Dishcloths are really a great item to practice new stitches on. The next project on the list is the Mitford Hood from Lion Brand Yarns. It's a great gift or a really nice accessory. It's knit in a super bulky yarn, so you work it up pretty fast, and it's knit every row. It's garter stitch again, and it's just basically another long square that you seam to turn into a hood. And of course, the link for that is down below. Number 6 is the beginner scarf project. This is another full video tutorial and pattern. Here's the finished scarf right here. I used Lion Brand Scarfy yarn for this. Just 1 skein. So if you're shopping at your big box store, you can find this pretty much in every Walmart, Michael's, any craft store will have this yarn. 1 skein of that and the pattern and the full video tutorial that will show you exactly how to make that scarf. That's all linked down below. That's like the dishcloths. It goes over all the basics: knitting and purling, casting on, binding off, and also introduces eyelets, so you'll learn knit two together and yarn over. And I really focus on teaching you to count rows and stitches in garter and in stockinette. There's some of those little eyelet rows. You'll learn how to do all of that with this scarf pattern. You'll find the link for that down below too. And number 7 on our list is the Hampstead Headband from Lion Brand Yarns. This is another one, small project. It's only 8 rows, but it introduces purl stitches. So you're learning to knit in stockinette. So it's cast on, bind off, knit and purl, and then seam the headband at the end. And it's worked in another bulky yarn, so it works up really fast. And I have 3 more projects to share, but before we do that, why don't you give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and leave a comment if you have an idea for a project or a pattern that you've seen that you think would be perfect for brand new knitters. Tell us about it. My goal for this channel is to help you become a confident knitter, and I believe that starts with the basics. So the projects I've shared here, especially the 3 of my own, the dishcloths, the mug cozy, and the scarf with the video tutorials, they'll really help you create a confident foundation for your knitting skills. So now let's look at those last 3 projects. Number 7 on my list is the wheat scarf from Tin Can Knits. It's another simple, free pattern. It's also worked in garter stitch, but this one introduces knit 1, purl 1 rib, just a little section of it right in the middle of the scarf. So you're practicing a new, very common stitch pattern that you'll use in a lot of other patterns. So it's added in here just for a little variation on a basic scarf. So this would make another great accessory or another gift that's perfect for brand new knitters. Number 9 on the list is the Tasseled Garter Stitch Scarf from Flax and Twine. It's still worked in garter stitch, but this one, you'll practice adding a new color. You start in their picture, they used a navy yarn and then they switched to white. So it's a good way to practice a brand new skill, adding a second color to your knitting. And you'll also learn how to make tassels, and it's worked in bulky yarn, so this one will knit up quickly too. And our last project is the Olive Poncho from Barocco Yarns. This poncho is perfect for when you're ready for a slightly larger project. It's still worked flat, but this time it's in knit 4, purl 4 rib, and then you seam one edge of it and you wear it over your head like a poncho. It's another free pattern. It's linked down below. So there we have it, 10 patterns that are perfect for brand new knitters, and 1 tip if you're a new knitter. While you're working any of these projects or any projects, when you're working back and forth and starting a new row, stop and count your stitches. One of the common mistakes I see new knitters make is accidentally adding stitches. There's a few ways you can do this, and I've done them all myself. So if you find that you end up with that problem, there's a video I have about beginner knitter mistakes, and it talks about this and a couple of other problems. So be sure to click through and watch that. And if you like to get nerdy with your knitting, click the subscribe button down below.